As already I had told, so we had a good interaction with sir yesterday. Sir is presently working as associate professor in NIT Meghalaya. He's having approximately 16 years of experiences in teaching and research. He did his AmTech and PhD from BITS Misra, and presently he's working as an associate professor in NIT Meghalaya, and his area of interest is IoT, big data analytics, and all that. So over to you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you again.
Please go ahead, sir, with your thought.
Yeah. Thank you, Professor Sharma, for the kind introduction. I hope just before I start, I just wanted to reiterate the fact that I had, as per your request, I had shared everything in the classroom. Hope.
Yes, we have received, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, I did not give my original slide. Original slide, originally planned. So whatever was that things I have shared.
No issue, sir, because we know the copyright issues will be there.
No, not copyright. They were all published, but then I did not talk about the Hadoop performance.
Fine, sir. No issue.
So whatever was not discussed, no point. So that's fine. The situation is not good, and I had conducted 2 AICT programs last time. So it's a very difficult thing when people. I had a speaker from DRDO Hyderabad. So morning I called him. His talk was from 12:30. And at 10 o'clock after the first, I started the first this thing. When I called him, he informed me that, oh, I completely forgot. I am on the way to Delhi. So then I had to fit in for him. So these some experiences I had. I understand the great difficulty. Otherwise, I would have conveniently, sidestep. Let me see. I hope today I'll be able to hold up. I have taken the medicines and all. So fine. Is my screen visible?
Sir, visible, and you are very well audible to all of us, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So just give me a moment. So today what we will be discussing is, of course, this. Just give me a moment. Just a minute. Let me find out, because frankly speaking, I was a bit underprepared, under-rested, overstressed. So frankly, I could not change the this slide headings and all. So please excuse me for that. So we also had a similar program. So I will just go ahead a bit forward. So I'll start off with the main. No need to focus on the top AICT HTTP. That you don't have to do. Just focus on this. So we'll be discussing about context awareness and cross-vertical IoT applications. So I would rather prefer to take out these terms. So what does this mean? Okay, so and what does this cross-vertical IoT applications mean? So I'll just basically, brief you so that we have an easy introduction to these terms per se, and then we'll be primarily focusing on one of our very recent papers published in 2009 in IEEE Internet of Things journal. So it's a very, very reputed journal. I think around 10 is the impact factor. So of course, there are follow-up. We have another paper last year that we got. So basically, the type of academic research which is necessary, I'll be a bit frank. Yesterday, I could not be so frank with you because there are many tools and techniques for big data technologies which are there prevalent in the market. As academicians, we don't have, we are not party to all such tools. The primary reason is that they are proprietary tools, state-of-the-art tools, particularly in case of big data, machine learning, and also they have a lot of demand in the enterprises. Okay, so just because of that, free academic licenses are not there, and the practical use cases for enterprises are completely different. And at this age and time, the types of use cases that people are coming up now with all these startups and also they are just, there is a everything is going on at breakneck speed. So under these circumstances, it's practically not possible for academic, in an academic environment to discuss about all those tools and go into that. We don't have access to most of them primarily. And even if you buy with a licensed version of it, there is no use because we don't have practical use cases which need a sort of so-called quote unquote real big data use cases. So we are doing it for academic exercise. So that's why what I discussed was I will be discussing what I intended was to discuss Hadoop, which has the the roots of all. Not all, but at least most of the big data tools. So similarly, today in this topic, we'll be discussing about not how to do academic research in general, but whatever we had done, we have 3-4 quarter one journals on this cross vertical IoT applications, and including 2 papers in this IEEE IoT journal. So these are all very, so-called work, but I'll be trying to explain to you all of this in very simple terms. And one very important thing, just to give you an example, is how to develop a model based on your concept. So whatever we think of, how to convert that. So how we did it, that experience I'll share with you. I have also told, for explaining in detail, I think the work was done by Dr. Reddy, who had been, who is scheduled to speak sometime later. I don't exactly recall the lecture number, but Dr. Hemant Reddy, he had been my erstwhile colleague. So we had done this work together. So the modeling part, maybe if I feel tired, I'll ask him. I have already requested to join him maybe half an hour or 1 hour later. So whenever he's free, he'll join. So, and I'll be there for question answers and all. So we'll start off these 2 works. So if you go and see the, just let me see. So if you see here, the title of this paper that we primarily will be focusing on. So this title actually has all these different components. So a context aware. So we'll explain this term. Fog enabled. So what does that mean? And then real time is a big challenge. And the cross vertical IoT application. I'll define these terms. Then I'll come to the main presentation. This is my main presentation. So I'll come back to it once I define all these terms. We will start off with. We'll start off with maybe, just a moment, give me. Oops. We'll start off with maybe the term fog computing. So because I could not organize these slides, I already have a few slides here and there, so I'll be jumping across from here to there. The remaining slides, I'll be sharing the main slide with you, maybe the PDF of our paper as well, so that is not an issue. But a little bit of monkey business I'll do. I'll jump across from here to there. So we'll start off with fog computing. So we had yesterday discussed about this. What happened? Slideshow. Okay. We had discussed that how sensors connect. Okay. The first step, as I told you, it's better that we all start to think of Internet of Things in terms of 4 steps, which are like 4 actionable steps. So first is to collect, and then to connect, then to analyze, and then finally to act. So connecting is a very, very important phase. So which are done by standard IoT protocols like MQTT and so forth. I'm sure you must have some discussions on those topics as well. The IoT protocols for, the messaging protocols and so forth, publish, subscribe, and so forth mechanisms. So now when it comes to collect, okay, so it had always been, all along, even during when sensor networks were not so there were wireless sensor networks were being studied maybe a decade back. It was a very, very popular topic, and ad hoc networks were being studied. The idea was the common idea was that sensors had always been assumed to be, because most use cases, there are exceptions of course, if you think of ECG machines and all to be sensors, which they are actually, but then there can be provisions of connecting those sensors to a power backup. So however, for most cases, so generalized idea. So there can be, don't come back to me asking me that I have found an exception to this. There are exceptions, but in general, sensor networks, whenever they had been deployed and all, they were always almost, in most cases at least, had been designed with the assumption that their sensors will be battery operated. Okay, and naturally this meant a lot of constraints in terms of their on time. So more for more duration the sensor is switched on, so more power they consume. Okay, so there were always mechanism for aggregating during WSN days also. I mean, there is a huge amount of literature of aggregating data. Okay, basically for putting the sensors, I mean sensors, let them have the physical readings of the parameters they are supposed to sense, get them, store it, and at optimally they wake up, and then the different TDMA and different the multi-access mechanisms had been studied. They had sometimes base stations and so forth. Now it is possible to design an IoT where all the different sensor nodes can directly store their data in a cloud, okay, or a data center, or whatever you call your storage mechanism. So depending on the scale of the IoT application that you are talking of, it may vary. It is possible to have an IoT application with a number of Wi-Fi enabled or Wi-Fi or Bluetooth enabled devices. So that means the geographical area of the network is very small, where all these sensors are working and doing their things. They are sensing and sending back. So for that you can use your laptop as the main backend storage. Okay, so I'm not talking of that, but in general, for distinct IoT applications, commercially viable applications. So we had, it has become the standard norm that for all storage purposes, some cloud facilities are being utilized because of not many reasons, but primarily because of economy of scale. So whenever you are deploying an application like that, you don't have to have a data center to purchase for yourself. So you just pay something, rent it out, and on top of that, you save a lot of time and energy in terms of getting the installations done, getting the procurements done. Everything's take time. So things have become, the overall life cycle of product development has gone down drastically. So cloud has been the de facto standard. But then as the scale of these sensors keeps increasing, so this, whatever cloud channels you use, they all, if everybody pushes their data individually, first of all, this will increase the chance of errors over the network, because network, as you know, is not just, you can't have it, in a practical scenario, you can't have a dedicated network for an application. So if you think of like modern days, we are talking of smart cities. So there will be hundreds and thousands of applications which are all running in parallel in a seamless manner. Okay, so for that reason, again, this aggregating of data was, thought of. So there are two terms which come into picture for doing this. One is called the edge, which we had already described yesterday, I think. Yeah, edge and fog. Both of them doing relatively the same thing. You can understand, a term which would give us an automatic understanding of what they meant was this: distributed, because there are many edges, unlike there is a single cloud, and the other one is caching. So I hope you understand the term cache. So in a computer system, caching basically or a cache memory basically refers to bridging the gap between the CPU speed and the main memory speed. So main memory accesses are much slower, maybe 100, 200 times slower, 500 times slower. So to bridge the gap, we bring something in between and do that. So the same principle is applied for a scenario of distributed application development. So IoT, definitely Internet of Things applications, any sizable Internet of Things application would require that. Okay, so that would require a cloud, but then as I told you, having these individual sensors pushing data is inefficient, error prone. So we had to have something, and then for saving time as well, because these fog, or edge nodes, so they are nothing but, in layman's term, they are nothing but some amount of, you can think of it like that. There's some amount of processing power they have, which are not there in sensor nodes, because if the sensor nodes are again enabled with additional processors, so they will also consume more power. So the main purpose is lost. So plus some amount of storage. So all of these are very, very constant in case of sensors. So whatever in WSN era, what we used to do, every sensor nodes used to transmit their data to the respective center head, cluster head, or base station, whatever the names varied from era to era, but then the meaning was the same, aggregated data. And then there was overall aggregation, which came, of course, which became very popular in reality when as cloud computing came into the market. Now the problem is that for doing these transfers, I mean, in a case where all these transfers, individual sensor data are being pushed to the cloud, this means that the cloud takes enormous amount of time. Think about it. If there are 1000 sensors, with 1000 sensors, let us say, it is obvious that because the network is unpredictable, the amount of time, let us say delta t, for if we do an average of this, an average delta t time to for a sensor to reach the cloud, so that maybe, let us say, x. But if we go ahead with that, I mean, if the cloud here, which is anticipating data, to wait for this x amount of time and then do whatever action it has to take, whatever processing it has to take, then it will probably lose 20% of the data. Some of them might have very vital information. Okay, because network is very any network which is publicly being used, which are openly susceptible to, apart from other security issues, they are also openly susceptible to some things which at physical level nobody can take care of. For example, congestion. Okay, so there is nobody to guarantee whether a network will be congested or not. What will be the bandwidth utilization at any certain point of time? Okay, so in some cases, some sensors might probably take 5x. Some sensors might take 8 times the average time that it should take. Okay, so in that case, for appropriate operation, the cloud has to wait for 8x amount of time before it aggregates the data and does the processing. Getting my point or not? So this makes the response time unacceptable, where we are trying to develop real time, even if not real time, at least near real time IoT applications. What we mean by real time, I hope everybody knows, but still, for the sake of completeness and discuss, define it. Real time basically refers to a physical time in terms of the delay. Usually we understand it in terms of delay. So just say, there are, of course, if you go into categorization, there are different types of timing constraints. But what it means is that this term real time is that there is some constraint which is imposed on some events which are going to happen. So they are constrained. Okay, what constraint? Time constraint. So in an IoT application which you are developing, if you want to make it real time or at least near real time, so certain events have to happen within given time constraints. Let us say delay, okay, which we call as from our perspective, we say as the response time. So there are two ways of seeing it, from the cloud's perspective and from the user's perspective. A user, maybe I say I am a user who have deployed all these sensors. We have a cloud, and I'm observing. So from the cloud, from the user's perspective, so I put up a request to do certain analytics operation, and which has to take this this thing into account, this data stream into account. And for some cases, there are uncontrollable delays, as I told you, for obvious reasons. So these makes a cloud-only architecture infeasible. Okay, so if you are developing your IoT with only a cloud-only approach, your real-time IoT applications will definitely fail. So we have to speed it up. How to do it? There is a way we have already seen. Basic computer organization also does it. Servers do it. They always do caching. So we can just extrapolate it, and we'll never find such a term, distributed caching, used in formal literature, but informally it's exactly the same. Okay, so they call it the edge of the network. So means it's not at the cloud end. So edge of the network means you have your devices or sensors, whatever, here at this level. You have your cloud here, and there is a network in between. So at the edge of the network, at this edge, so there is a, depending on from which end you are seeing, you can call it one. You can call one as the near end, the other one as the front end. So edge devices are devices which are lying here, endowed with what characteristics? Some amount of processing power, some amount of storage, using which they can, like hold some of the data, so that the sensors can also don't have to bother whether the cloud have received the corresponding data or whether they have to retransmit it. They simply sends it to the edge. The edge, they're actually devices. So edge devices are much more reliable because they're at the close proximity. Okay, so they can be connected to a power main power supply. So there is no that is not a big issue. Of course, there are, I mean, we'll see in literature later on that there have been many sometimes mobile phones and laptops for certain use cases, they are also used as edge devices. So that idea is some slightly this thing, but anyway, you can mobile phone or a laptop or a router, or if you think of a smart cities infrastructure, a city where which has IT infrastructure built across it, they will at different point, let us say in a traffic post, so there is some space, you can put up a device there, I mean endowed with some amount of processing and data processing and data storage capabilities, and which can be powered by main. So that serves the purpose. And in Cisco terminology, they are also called fog devices. Now, these two are used more or less interchangeably. However, there is a drastic difference in terms of the way they are perceived based on where you are using it. Okay, so edge devices mostly means that lightweight devices, like if you are using your mobile phone, where your mobile phone has a number of sensors, so that can your mobile phone for some amount of time act as a storehouse of what data your sensors are giving. For example, I'm sure most of you must be having, or to different extent of course, but smart watches, smart this, smart that, which can be controlled by your mobile phone. Okay, so your mobile phone actually it becomes the edge device for that. So that means if you are not with your mobile phone but you are wearing your wristwatch, smartwatch for some time, so as long as it is not within the range of the mobile, so within the Bluetooth area of your mobile phone, so when they are far apart, the wristwatch for the time being acts as the edge device. So it is not meant for doing extra storage and extra processing, but it does it for some time. So whenever you come back, enter the proximity, the data is transferred to the, so this is transferred to the mobile phone. So this idea is actually this offloading of storage and computation also. I will not give examples of that one. Storage is very obvious. So this is called offloading. So while it is not in proximity, the smartwatch acts as an edge device. While it is in some use cases, your mobile phone may act as an edge device. And there have been many wonderful propositions by people how to do crowdsourcing and all. So if you find that in a crowd of people, we don't have such options, but I have seen papers and all which I have reviewed. People talk of having the network being intelligent enough to monitor how many in a metro station or something like that. So they call it tube or something. So in a tube like that, so how many users are there, out of which how many people are heavily loaded their mobile phones. So in such a scenario, how securely, suppose I am playing a game for which in my mobile, for which my processing capability is not sufficient. I feel it's not sufficient, and we have the games which are all cloud-based games, so they detect additional hardware required, so they send it to the cloud. Our cloud permits it, securely does it. Security is another issue, another dimension to it, so we'll not discuss it. So somebody else's game playing now comes to my mobile's headache. So there has to be understanding, and legal implications we are not going to discuss, but people have thought of such wonderful, brilliant ideas. Okay, so based on this principle of edging. Fog, on the other hand, I'm just telling you the technical differences. So basically, devices like mobiles, laptops, they can be used as edge devices, so which can act in hybrid mode. Fine. On the other hand, fog is the term which was introduced by Cisco. So it's primarily their business is on production of network devices. So you can think of that they had burdened their routers and whatever which will be there in any city's infrastructure with some additional processing and this capability. Anyway, the box will be there. You just put some amount of extra horsepower into those boxes, into those network devices. So now they can do some amount of, they can help in some amount of offloading. So mobile devices and all edge devices are, I mean, in that sense, relatively, there is no, in literature, it's not, I mean, people, as I told you, use both these terms interchangeably. So there is a very fine line of distinction. I have given these two terms to you, but then we, in our paper, use this term fog computing. So I'll just come back to the what it means. I will not go through all of this. So this one shows, this diagram shows you a better picture. You have a number of sensors, maybe a few mobile devices, because they have so many sensors within themselves, they can also be well be a part of some IoT applications. In fact, they are a part of many IoT applications per se. So as you can see, you have the cloud this side, you have the devices, sensors at this end. So this becomes the near end and front end, as I told you, and far end and near end, based on from which side you are seeing it. So as you go, so the observations are there, as you go towards the cloud, your computing and data storage power increases. So, and more interactive, more responsive. I mean, interactive responsive means the response times are faster. If you go, for example, if this sensor has to send directly to the cloud and get it back, response time gets bogged down, slowed down. Okay, so fine. So this basically tells us, so there can be a set of devices which can be defined as a fog, utilized as a fog. So I mean, Cisco came up with products like that, a home gateway. They produce notebook devices or not. With some amount of software, you can make your PC or your notebook, which can act as, yeah. Any question? What happened? My screen is not visible or what? What happened? Okay, I think by mistake somebody's microphone got switched on. I assume that and move forward. Okay. So in a fog site, what tasks basically can be done are some amount of real-time processing, because as I told you, I mean, as we come here, there is, practically speaking, a mobile phone can do some amount of processing. Otherwise, these basic sensors can't do. They're just sensors for sensing. And you can have intermediate versions also. But as we come towards the device side, the computation and storage powers keep on decreasing. So we have an intermediate option, a hybrid option in between, which can be a range of different products. So they can do some amount of real-time data processing, some amount of data caching. As I told you, caching is required, and some computational offloading. So if this mobile phone requires more computational power, so with permissions and all, we are not going into that details. Logically, it is possible that some amount of computation is designated or assigned to a particular fog node, which does it securely and gives the result back. How it is done is not our question. So this is all about the concept of fog computing. Okay, fog computing and edge computing, as I told you, these two can be exchanged interchangeably. I mean, people do that, but, and I have also told you the tacit difference, the explicit difference between these two. But many places they are not. In fact, in our paper also, we have very clearly mentioned that we are not distinguishing between these two terms, because many people have done that. Fine. So now we have here from our paper, we have discussed at least one of the primary this thing. Okay, fog enabled is done. Now we'll see context awareness. Now we think of IoT applications which require huge volumes of data. Although we are saying that fog devices are having some amount of additional computational and storage capacity, but they are no match for a cloud. Okay, they are very lightweight things anyway. So it is not possible that everything that is, IoT applications will require. We are not talking of one IoT application. Think of a city where thousands of IoT applications are running. They are talking to, their respective sensors and so on and so forth. And we have some common fog devices. So for such cases, it's not that all the data which are intended can be picked up by understood in a proper sense. So that is why there is also a branch of context of computer science that we call context-aware computing. Okay, or let us call it context awareness. let me know. So context awareness, which basically means that just seeing raw streams of data in our, I mean, for our discussion, I'm saying, if in a think from a fog devices perspective, let us say at a traffic pole somewhere in the city, you have a fog device. I mean, you have a box network device, router or something like that, a very big box. So you have put some amount of additional listening. So we are using it as a fog, fine. So now it has to, so it will cater to the requirements of the nearby sensors, obviously. Okay, so now doing that from the perspective of the fog, it just receives data and sends it to the cloud, receives data, sends it to the cloud. It has limited practical limitations of how much it can hold. For the cloud, it is slightly different. So as long as you pay money, I mean, theoretically, I'm saying, I mean, hypothetically, I'm saying, as long as we pay sufficient amount of money, Amazon will give you any amount of storage that you can demand for. Even if you might not be able to conceive the amount of storage you're asking for, but they will be able to give. That is the status of cloud computing. So we don't bother about that cloud size or anything like that. But that we have to, whenever we talk of a fog device, that is, although we have some amount of storage and processing capacity, that is finite and in fact very limited. So for a city, okay, in a city like infrastructure where so many IoT applications are talking to each other, I mean, they're all passing through the fog devices. So from that perspective, I'm saying, so it becomes very difficult for the fog device to understand what is happening. So if we can do certain optimizations, so for that, we actually employed something called context awareness. Basically, I tell you layman's language. I mean, context, the word context itself is a very undefined term. So this we have detailed in our paper with proper citations and all. But then what we choose as a context again varies. And there are different tools, which are their standard tools for generating a context for a set of, let us say, IoT applications in a thing. So that will not be focusing on, but basically meaning in a layman's language, picking up certain nuances from the data streams, which from the fog's perspective, it's like seeing it like a blind, with blind eyes. We're not seeing the who is sending, which sensor is sending to which, for which particular applications in a transparent way, but still with some amount of training, it can pick up the context. Somebody's microphone is on, it seems. So, so that's about it. So we use context awareness for doing intelligently some amount of optimization. So that will come back when we discuss the modeling part. So we have discussed fog computing, we have discussed context awareness. What remains is defining of something that we call cross-domain or cross-vertical applications. Now, what does that mean? Okay, so there are many IoT applications or let us say vertical IoT applications that we talk of. Vertical IoT application means from which, for which cases sensor to the cloud, this flow is like in a straight line. So no intermerging. I mean, don't put any crossovers here and there. Okay, so like for example, there are many. Let us say you have a smart city is an example. So we have the people. We will not start with smart city. It will be slightly complicated. We'll do with a smart home. I'm sure people have been exposed to some amount of this thing at least. So where basically we can there are different levels of complexity for each of these IoT applications. It all depends on the eye of the beholder, as they say. The person who is conceiving an application, based on his vision, actually the complexity might vary, but I'm sure you must have experienced or seen applications where people are like controlling the switching on or switching off of fans, tubes, ACs, this, that, doesn't matter, any devices which are there at the home using mobile phones. Okay, so that is smartness to some level, but if you have gone through the formal definitions of IoT and the recommendations by the ITU and the 3GPP, the communication, the standardization bodies, so they all say they have been moving towards machine to machine. So if actually you are controlling all your devices by manual intervention, that doesn't make sense as long as we talk of M2M. I'm sure you must have definitely heard of the 3GPP standards, basically the standardizing bodies. So they talk of machine to machine. So even if they are IoT applications, we consider them. We are talking of applications which are much more complicated. Let me see. A smart home application can be a scenario where you don't have to manually give your inputs to the mobile phone. So your mobile phone might act as the master or the coordinator of all the different sensors or different components of your IoT systems, IoT smart home component. Smart home IoT system that you have developed, but it can using a different number of sensors, it can identify whether a person is there or not. There can be different sensors for doing that. The presence of a person, apart from the presence of the person, it can, based on the presence, based on the previous history of the person, based on the time of the day, time of the year, all these profiles can be built for an individual. Accordingly, lights, music, AC temperature, all these things might be set, told by the controller itself. So it's not that manually somebody has to pick up a phone and today it's raining very heavily, it's not hot, so I would rather prefer to open my windows. I don't have to manually do it. So that is also, we said IoT applications, but then it has to come within the lower rungs of IoT application. So an IoT application of smart home, very sophisticated one, something like that. So it's like all these curtains and all. I'm sure I must have used it in some hotels and all. I have used actually, but there we have to manually press the. Hotels are anyway not our residences. Like a hotel person cannot be profiled, but if you use an IoT application for 6 months, 1 year, 6 years, it gets sufficient training to tell that this is the time. Whenever it senses that I have woken up in the morning, they can open the curtains on its own. So quite, rosy stuff. I'll not go into further details. Then weather monitoring. There are so many different weather stations. Okay, so whether the sensors for weather monitoring has to be there at different points within the city, not just within the city, within districts, not just within the districts, states, and at the national level, and also at international level. So this gives us a complex hierarchy of sensing at different level, which have to be seen in an unified way. Okay, so contradictions and all have to be smoothened out. Okay, smart grid. Smart grid, I'm sure, most of you must have some idea, but if you don't, I'll just tell you. So it's a marriage between communication technologies, information and communication technologies with the power grid infrastructure, so which basically gives us automatic monitoring of the supply, the amount of power which is being produced and put at one end and at the consumer side as well. And then based on this monitoring, because monitoring is there, you can bill the customers, you can do a whole lot of different, you can build a whole lot of use cases and applications based on that. Okay, so all of these are called vertical IoT applications because you have a finite set of defined, very well defined set of sensors which will participate in building that IoT application. But of late, people have been thinking of much more complicated applications. Okay, let us say the traffic management as well. Traffic management means you have a car. So this you are, there is a, in a smart city, you have applications where traffic lights and also they switch on and off, go on and off. In a programmed manner, in an intelligent manner, seeing the different traffic conditions here and there. So fine. So based on that, so they do very sophisticated estimations of how many people are taking which route and accordingly make predictions. So using this traffic management and using a map which may be available for the city users, they can create other applications like how much time will a person take if he starts from point A at, let us say it's 4 p.m. now, and wants to reach point B. So they will estimate the time provided the path is known. And they can also, complicated applications can also think of what are the alternative paths which are available. Based on that, a traffic application, traffic management application might also tell you to, give you some direction. So in that way, they can better manage the traffic. They observe that there is a jam or something at this particular point of time. So an individual driving this way can be suggested to take a diversion and then go away and show you the estimated times. Fine. So now there have been instances of like different people thinking of applications which would require multiple IoT applications to come together. For instance, the collaboration of a smart grid application and an intelligent home can unlock new models for IoT application. Okay. Similarly, the potential for energy savings and optimizations across the city can be done by aggregating and analyzing the data across different buildings, which are again, if they are smart buildings, if individual buildings details are there, so such optimizations can be recommended. Okay, getting my point or not? So just to give you an example before we go into how we model such a situation scenario. So let us say you are at your office right now. So the time is, let us say, 3:45, and this is your home, and this is, of course, is a smart home. So you have these individual IoT applications. So you, based on at what time you come out, based on the traffic condition, based on the road traffic, the congestion, okay, based on the weather conditions, you might want to control the ambience at your home. Means, one way of doing it, a simple IoT application would be, as I told you, applications which can be considered to be at the lower level of IoT applications would be that whenever you start from your office, you just switch on your AC, because now in most places, I don't know, temperatures are soaring 35, 40, I don't know, may vary from different places, but they're usually, it's a peak summer, so very, very hot. So based on this, at what time you are starting, what is the outside temperature, whether if it rains accordingly, so the AC will not, AC is not a system which if you switch on immediately, even if you set it at a particular temperature, let us say 20 degrees. So based on so many factors, it will take a variable amount of time to bring it to your preferred temperature, right? So we want to do this intelligently. So we get information. The smartphone is also, your smartphone is also a part of sensors which comprises your smart home, but it automatically takes the GPS location and all. You don't have to manually use it. Manually feed it that I'm starting, or you're directly, you are not in an intrusive manner, you are not switching them on or off. You want to do it at an M2M level, sophisticated IoT level. So you start from your office with so many different variable conditions, which are individually all vertical IoT applications. So when we want to do that, when we want to develop such applications, we give them a name, standard name, which we call cross-domain IoT applications or cross-vertical IoT applications. Getting my point or not? Till here, if you have any clarifications, you please ask me. Yeah? I'll just take a break of 1 minute. I don't have water with me here. Or else we'll move forward. We'll see, based on this, how we came up with an academic problem per se, and then how we solved it using, how we modeled it actually. Okay, Dr. Reddy, if you are there, have you joined? I think he has not joined. Okay, no issue. So once he will be giving you the details, till he arrives, I will tell you tata bye bye and I'll leave. I'll be there for questions, but I don't know, I need some rest. Fine. So we'll not go into the problem statement right away. We'll just give you a scenario here. So what we are doing here is that, I hope that part is clear, what we are trying to do. The overall scenario, what is cross-vertical IoT application? So we want to have a scenario where we can actually have real-time cross-vertical applications. A real-time cross-vertical application means he's telling that he's already there. Dr. Reddy, you're there. Am I audible to you? There is a message. Let me see if there is a question. Fine, no issue. Fine. He's telling that he is there, but he is not there. It is very difficult to find out from all these people. I think I found him. Reddy sir, you're not audible. Pin him. Pin to screen. Anyway, leave it. So if he is not audible, then I'll carry on.
Sir, is it audible now?
Okay, it came. I thought I had to continue. Yeah, it's audible now.
Yeah, sir.
So what I will just before I stop, before I hand over, what I have told Reddy sir is that I have briefed them about the basic requirements, the background, context awareness, how that comes into picture, how fog computing and what it serves. You just tell them the problem statement. First, explain to them the network scenario that we are experimenting. Okay, and then how we are managing the response time. So by that algorithm, we just detail to them. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You can share your screen and take over.
Yes, sir. Sir, if you can stop sharing, then I can share my screen.
Sir, I already stopped long back.
Okay.
Sorry for the interruption. Just hold on. Okay. In the meantime, I cannot show my screen now.
That screen is visible now?
Not yet. Coming. On the way. Okay.
Sir, is it visible now?
Yeah. You make it full screen and please start.
Okay.
I have already briefed them the major things, just that network model, and from there how we.
Yeah. Should I start now? Hello.
Sir, you're audible. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I think
Good afternoon to all.
Might have turned on by mistake, so please ignore it. Please continue.
As Professor Dr. Roy has mentioned all the points like fog computing and context aware and cross-domain IoT applications and all, right? Just I will carry forward the framework which you have, published in papers. So let me start with the problem statement. Right, the services over cross-vertical IoT applications are suffering from the high service delay, which is not at all acceptable in real-time IoT applications. Right, and if you see the problem, if you see the above problem and this IoT applications, if you can think about the fog node can be, or fog computing can be a solution, but even fog computing with low latency, low service delay cannot be a solution because of it cannot sustain the burden. Right. First of all, it has a low computation and low storage. Now, in addition, the massive end devices may concentrate within one fog node that can overload the resources, and which leads to a further increase in the service delay. So if you want to solve this issue, that's service delay, right? You cannot, I mean, the fog node cannot be a single concept of fog node cannot be a solution for that. So let me go through the objectives. That the main objective is, I mean, our whole idea is the traditional cloud-based centralized network architecture cannot cater the real-time responses demanded by the unified IoT applications. Even current standalone, right? Just now, Dr. Roy sir has explained this. What is standalone and cross-vertical IoT applications? Even that standalone or vertical IoT application cannot provide the complete solutions. So just now, sir has explained that what is this standalone or vertical IoT application, what is cross-vertical IoT applications. So I'm not going into details once again. So in order to achieve the services that are enacted through the seamless integration of multiple vertical IoT applications, a fog-enabled cross-vertical IoT, that fog-enabled cross-vertical applications model is introduced. Now, as I said, as a fog cannot be a solution to the above problem. Similarly, for that, what you have done, with the fog, you have added the features of cross-vertical IoT applications. Then, even IoT with CVA models cannot sustain the burden, right? So first we tried with the fog. Then I saw that it can be a fog cannot give a solution. Then we have added this CVA cross-vertical applications, but still, right, it cannot sustain the burden, right? Because more and more number of devices are penetrating to IoT, right, nowadays. So it cannot, I mean, these two cannot give a solution to that. Then we try to introduce the fog nodes at the edge of the internet or edge of the network. Then what you have done that you have incorporated some techniques or some what you call as approaches. So one, the context-aware computing that we have learned from the previous papers, that along with some approaches, I mean, like switching, I mean, migrations and context sharing approaches. So in this paper, we modeled a cross-vertical IoT applications by employing the fog node within the network architecture with context-aware computing. And these fog nodes are used as an interface between the vertical application because of low latency and interoperability, as I said. As the fog node has limited capacity and cannot accommodate the huge number of requests on data, so these information is converted into context form. Then, so an efficient context sharing, right? So see, first you have tried the fog node, then you have added this cross-vertical applications. Still, these two, the combination of these two cannot handle this real-time IoT applications, right? That's why you have tried to incorporate some efficient context sharing or context migration approaches. It's used to select the context instances. Those need to migrate to nearby fog nodes for processing or need to reside temporarily in other fog nodes. So this is what exactly our contribution is. Now, this selection is based on the request priority. Now, let me say that what is exactly request priority. the IoT applications are of different priority, right? There are some critical applications are there which you need to be served immediately without any delay, and there are some applications which you need to complete within the deadline, right? And there are some applications which can be served with the additional deadlines. So based on this, all service requests or applications are categorized into 3 categories, right? And that is what you call as priority. So the number of contest instances available with a fog node and availability to storage. What I mean to say that, depending upon the category, what type of service category is, if it is really a critical sensitive application, then we need to immediately solve it, right? You immediately give a solution to that. Now, how to give? There are there are other parameters as to one, whether the data which is required or that information which is required to serve that particular service request is available or not, right? Whether the computation is available or not, right? If the information which is required to serve that application or that request is available, then you have to see that whether the fog node resources are available or not. If the fog node resource is not available, then definitely it will take some time to complete the existing one, then it will start processing. So these parameters we need to take care of, right? So as I said, this information and this whatever the information required to serve a particular application or a particular request, right? What you call as a context, right? We are storing these information in the form of context, right? Then there is something called as CMAX, right? As you know, that fog node is a small device with a limited storage capacity as well as computation capacity. So that small buffer size, which is used in the fog node, we called as the SIM, and the size is called buffer size is called as CMAX, right? So that is the total CMAX, in the sense the total number of context instances that you can store in a fog node, right? Or in simple language, you can say the buffer size, total buffer size, right? Now, here it is assumed that all the context instances are of same size, right? That is the reason why you are taking the total number of CMAX is the total number of contest instances that you can store in a fog node. If the number of contest instances are required for processing a particular application is not available at a fog node, then it can collect the required contest instances from nearby fog node within minimum delay. Just I would like to give a small example here, right? Assume that we are 4 or 5 members are there to solve the student issues, right? In a room or somewhere, right? And if a student will come to you with a problems, assume that the problem, if I'm good at this programming language like C, C++, Java, right? If a student will come with a problem in the Python, right? If I don't know the Pythons, right? So anyway, I need to solve the student's problem. So what I do, first of all, I will check that. I will search in the Google, right? Then I will answer to the student. But there may be a situation that student is not ready to spend that much of time with you, right? So the best idea is that you see the nearby teacher or nearby persons, those who are there to solve the problems. If is there any person who is who has the knowledge on Pythons and also has free idle, right? Then immediately you can migrate the person from you to the respective person the other person who knows this Python programming as well as he has free. So that is what you called as service migration. This is one. The second option is, if I don't know the Python, right? What I can do, for example, he's asking about some methods, right? So how that method works. So what I'll do, I will take a call from, I'll just give a call to my friend. I will ask that how this particular method works, right? And I'll take the information, then I'll give it to the student. So this is what you call as context sharing. What I'm doing, I'm getting the information from other fog nodes. If the information is not there to process the service request, so I'll get the information from other fog nodes, right? As soon as I get the minimum information which is required to start a service, to start the service request, right? Once I'll get, then I will start this. I'll start serving the request. So that is what you call as context sharing, right? Then there is something called as context migrations, right? What is this context migration means? As you know that the fog node has a limited capacity, right? For example, in later side, I will show you that what are the different applications you are using here. There are different 13 different applications you are using, but randomly you have deployed the 7 to 8 applications in each and every fog node. Let me take out some examples. For example, uh, smart grid, smart healthcare, smart traffic, smart education. All these are called as applications, right? And previously, the fog node has certain context instances in of each these types. But suddenly, I got a request or service request for particular called as smart grid. Now, to serve that particular request, I need 10 contest instances. But right now, I don't have 10 contest instances. So what I need to get? I need to get these instances from the other fog nodes or nearby fog nodes. In that case, see, my total Cmax is full here. I mean, the total Cmax is 20, for example, means all 20 contest instances are there in my fog node, right? But I need to get the rest of the information from the other fog nodes. How can I get? See, already my fog node is filled with the 20 contest instances. So I need to vacate these contest instances so that I can bring some new contest instances of that particular type. So that is what you call as contest migration. So 3 things I said. One is called as service migration. Second one is called as contest sharing. Third one is called as contest migration. Right? Now, in case of contest migration, the selection of fog node is based on the minimum service delay. Right? If I want to migrate the content, right, context, right? In that case, right, I need to find out what is the minimum service delay for that one, which relies on the different parameter like nearby, less load, work, traffic, etc. So this particular, we are dealing with the algorithm called as delay tolerant load balancer, right? For example, if a student will come to me for a specific problems, if I don't know the answer of that particular problems, though first of all I'll think that I will get the information by side person, then I'll give it to you. But you need to check that whether the student is ready to spend that much of time or not, right? So you cannot go on ask the student to wait for that answer, right? So all these parameters we are going to check to justify the efficacy of our model. Just come to this one. Yeah. So these all, whatever the problem, whatever the algorithms I said, just we will discuss individually once again. So let me introduce this cross-domain IoT applications, right? I hope Sir has explained this one, cross-domain IoT application. Right? The current landscape of IoT is evolving around of vertical solutions, each separately suited to a specific scenario and develop the specific protocol requirement. The cross-vertical IoT applications are seamless integration of discrete vertical IoT solutions such as smart home, intelligent transport system, smart grid, and so on. Right? Now, this is the cross-domain IoT system architecture here. You can see that there are 3 layers are there. The first, the layer are the sensors or the devices. The second layer is the fog node. Now here the fog node, each and every fog node has one context or what you call as engine, right? Context engine. Now what is this context engine is? This context engine has and here in this diagram you can see the first one is smart grid, the second one is intelligent transport system, and third one is smart home, and fourth one is healthcare here. Now, these are the devices or the sensors which are deployed, and in each fog node, here you are showing the application 1, application 2, application 3, But apart from this application one, other applications also there, right? It does not. It seems to be one fog node having only one application. It's not like that. As I said, one fog node may have 7 to 8 applications you have deployed it. Now this is where the engine, right, which processes the service request. Now, and there is one more layer, it's called as cloud layer. Why this cloud layer is, see, these devices, right, continuously generating data. And these data are stored in the form of context in the fog nodes, right? And mostly in case of IoT, right, after a few minutes or after 10 minutes or 20 minutes, the data which was generated a device that becomes invalid, right? So that data will simply push to the cloud for analytics, right? We are not dealing the analytics in this paper. Now, context management in network model. Now, what do you mean by context management, right? Each fog node have a CM capacity, that is context management capability, and comprises of different context engines associated with each applications. Now, current CM is implemented within their own domain and maintains its own user data, which does not promote the unified IoT services. Therefore, our proposed method considers the context sharing between the different IoT, vertical IoT applications. Now, this is a context management network model, right? Now, here you can understand that here you can get it in details. These are called as fog nodes. The tower, the base stations, the symbols which looks like the base stations. Now here we consider as a fog nodes. Each and every fog node has a certain the CMAX value, that is the buffer size. So initially there are fog node A, B, C, D, right? Fog node A, B, C, D. In the fog node A, the CMAX capacity is 25. Fog node B, CMAX size is 20. Fog node C, CMAX size is 15. And fog node D, it's a 12. Now, all these fog nodes, right, they capture the data from the nearby devices, sensor devices. Now, there are some applications are there. In fog node A, the deployed application is application 1, 2, right, and N. Similarly, some applications are there, right? Now, jump to this one. Yeah, this is a clear picture. I mean, the complete picture about this network architecture. This is a complete scenario, or you can say illustrative example of the network architecture what you have designed. As I said, there are few fog nodes are there, starting from A to H, right? A, B, C, D, all this, right? And this is a scenario where we are trying to explain or trying to illustrate an example to showcase our proposed model, right? Assume that a person, right? A person is there in the office, which comes under the region of or under the radius sensing range of fog node A, and the person's home is at fog node in the sensing range of fog node C, right? The Sir has explained this concept. Just I'm trying to explain in a detailed way. Now, the person wants that when he will reach to the home appliances should be in a comfortable position, right? And he don't know at what point of time he will reach, right? Because nowadays, at present, there are in Western countries, there are some apps are there. By sitting in the office, you can control your home appliances, right? But with a busy schedule, it's also difficult to control each and every day, right? For example, if I'll start from the office now, right, I will control my AC, right? Initially, I thought that within 15 minutes I will reach in my home. So let's start the AC, so that once I reach my home in the home, then I will get a comfortable environment or comfortable temperature, right? But meanwhile, the traffic is too high, right? It may take 1 more hour, right? Right. Meanwhile, the weather condition may change, right? Meanwhile, some friends may, you may meet some friends in the road, right? On the traffic. So it will take some time to discuss with him. No, so each and every, point, what you need to do, you need to reschedule it. You need to again control that. So this is a manual task, right? Though you are saying automated, but still it's a manual. So what you want that it should be a fully manual, a fully automated one, right? Fully IoT enabled one. Now, your user will not give any instructions on a daily basis or hourly basis, right? But as soon as he reaches the home appliances should be in a comfortable zone, right? This is what the scenario. So, what information is required? Though in home, that is a home automation system. Now, let me take only one example. That is, if I'll take it the room temperature, AC, right? So I want that when I reach the home, right? I want that room temperature should be around 20 or 25 like that, right? If I'll set that room temperature to 20, then the home automation system need to adjust or need to take all the parameters, and it has to decide that at what point I need to start this AC so that when the person will reach in the room, right, it feels that room temperature is 20. Right. It seems to be simple, but it's difficult because every day I cannot start exactly 5 o'clock from the office. Even though I'll start around 5:15 like this, right? The traffic conditions may change, right? May differ from day to day, right? The weather condition may differ day to day. Now, around this, the temperature of the surrounding temperature of home also different, right? Sometimes it may be 40, 42 like summer, and sometimes maybe winter it's 35 or less than 30 or something, right? But your home automation system has to control, you have to control everything. So what it required that one, right? So before going to that one, let me introduce all these diagrams first, right? So the top corner, which gives the notations, right? The fog nodes A, B, C, D, I up to J, the 10 fog nodes are there. Then the next one is user request. The double blue dotted right arrow is called as user request. Then the red dotted line, it indicates the broadcast message. Then a green right with a diamond symbol, it's called as contest sharing. Then a dotted blue with a ellipse is called as contest migration, right? And wherever you call as CI, that is contest instances, right? In the bottom, again, there is a small information is there. SH means it's a smart home, SA means smart agriculture, ST means smart transportation, STC smart telecommunication, SG smart grid, SHC smart healthcare, SWM that's smart waste management, SCS smart education, right? Apart from the others are there, just for the information I kept this much. Then we'll see the fog nodes. Now fog node A. Now see the current situation or current state of fog node A. The fog node A, the maximum size is, max size is 25. That indicates that the buffer capacity of fog node A can store 25 contest instances only of any type. As I said, you have considered all type of contest instance size is same. Now, then what are the applications are there? SH is there, that smart home. Then SG is there, smart grid. Then you have SHC is there, that is smart healthcare. Then ST, smart telecommunication transportation. Then STC, that is smart telecommunication. Then SB, that's smart vehicle, right? This information is there. Now, I'm not discussing all fog nodes. Then I'm coming to fog node C, right? That is, in the sensing region of home. The home is there in the sensing region of C. So that capacity of the C, that is capacity of the fog node is 22. Now 22 means, as I said, so the top portion here, this information part is divided into two parts. The above part is the current scenario, and the below, the last is one is the after processing. So currently what it has the assets, SG, SHC, and SWM. Now here it's a 22. So SS has 4, SG is 5, SHC is 2, and this one is 4. Now if I will count this one, 9 plus 2, 11 plus 4, that is 15. So in fog node C, total 15 contest instances are there out of 22. Means 7 contest instances are free. Right? Means a few % of buffer size is free. Right? Then, so to take that particular action, I mean, the home automation system when to start the AC so that when the person will reach to the home, right, it should be in a comfortable situation. I mean, comfortable state. Right? The room should be around temperature of 20 or less than that. Now, the home automation cannot take a decision on a static basis, right? Because the user, right, who is at office, he can start traveling at any point of time. He can start from 5 or 5:30, sometimes 6, sometimes 7, sometimes maybe 4:30, before that also, right? So every time it has to sense the information, the position, the GPS location of that particular. Right? That is one. Second, right? What else you require? You require the smart traffic information, smart transport information, right? Or traffic or transport information, right? Is there any traffic in the road or not? Because if the user also started traveling from there, then how much time it will take to reach the home, right? That information required. Next, you require the weather information also, because if outside temperature is 40, then how much time it will take to bring the room temperature to 20? That depends upon the surrounding temperature. So all these informations is required, right? So continuously it's fetching all these informations, right? Based on that, it will start your AC. But maximum time, all these informations may not be available in one in the fog node, right? Assume that at this current scenario, as I said, the smart home, then smart grid, smart healthcare, and smart waste management, this information is there. But what I need to process this request, I need smart telecommunication or smart transportation, smart telecommunications, smart smart vehicle information, and the temperature weather report. These informations I require. The home automation is required. So as this information is not with the fog nodes C, so what it will do, it will simply broadcast a message to the near fog nodes, right? That I need this information, this 4 type of informations. If you have any information of this type, please share with me. So that is the red lines. So first it will broadcast. Now it will broadcast to only the nearby fog nodes or the fog nodes which are right within the sensing range. If the fog node having that information, then it will simply share with the fog node C. Otherwise, it can also broadcast to other fog nodes or forward the same message to other nearby fog nodes, right? So that is the reason when the broadcast message comes from C to E, right? E has some information, but rest of information is not there. So it simply forward to fog node A, right? So the dotted lines indicates that it's a broadcast information. On receipt of this information or on receipt of this request from C, right? All these fog nodes will respond to it, right? All these fog nodes will respond to it. Assume that in the diagram itself, you can see fog node E and fog node D. Fog node E and D and A, right, has some information related to the broadcast message. So fog node E has ST, right? That is 2 ST, that is smart transportation information, the two context instances are there, right? Whereas in case of fog node D, right, there are two ST, context instances are there, and 5 STC context instances are there. So simply they share this information to the fog node C, right? Similarly, fog node A, it has 4 context instances of ST and 4 context instances of SB, that smart vehicle. So that information. Now here, once the fog node C broadcasts this message, it will wait for wait for a particular amount of time. It cannot wait for an indefinite time. It cannot wait for infinite time, right? So it will only wait for a definite time. Now, within the time period, whatever the context it receives, context instance it receives from other fog node, it tries to capture it. Now, in this diagram, it's clearly visible how many context instances that C receives. So C receives 4 plus 4, that is 8, and 4 plus 4 from fog node C, and 2 from fog node E. So 10 from fog node A and E, and another 5 plus 2, that is fog node D. So altogether, 17 context instances it will receive, right? But if you see that the empty, the total capacity of the fog node C has 22 context instances. Out of that, 15 are filled with some other information like SG, SH, SHC, SWM all, right? So what it need to be, see, to take this particular decision, I need that much of information. But to keep that much of information, I don't have a space. Fog node don't have a space, right? What to do? Then it comes the migration of fog nodes, right? The previous process is called as context sharing. And now, due to this context sharing, the fog node C is going to receive 17 number of context instances. But unfortunately, fog node C has only 7 free context instances. Means it can only accommodate 7 context instances only, not more than that, right? So the two possible things are there. Either you have to manage with the 7, right, only 7 context instances, or right, you have to delete some context instances of different types which are not required to you, right? So that you can incorporate the all incoming context instances. So here you cannot simply delete, because other applications also running, and those applications may use these context instances, right? So depending upon the priority, right, if the fog node will see that there are some contests or some service are in processing or in running, right? Like SWM, smart waste management, right? Now that is the priority of this application is very low. So that's why what it will do, it will stop processing that one, and the context instances of that particular type will migrate to some other fog nodes, right? Now here that you can easily see that the blue dotted line with the ellipse symbol. Now few context instances which are not required at present or depending upon your priority value, right? So that you can migrate to some other fog nodes for temporary purpose. Now for that you have to see that whether, right, there is a free space in that fog node or not. Now here in this diagram you can see there are nearby fog nodes are E, B, F, K, D, and J. But it only migrate the contents, existing contents, context instances to only 3 fog nodes. That is F, that is B, and D. Because The size of the max size of these fog nodes is 25 in case of F25, right? But it has only 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4, that is 8 plus 3, 11. So only 11 are there. So some of my contest instance you can migrate to the fog node F. Like this way, it will migrate the what you can say, some contest instance of the applications which are not in critical stage. So those you can migrate to the other fog nodes, right? And that you have to do within that time period only, that within the deadline that the application allows. For example, what you were talking about the application, if that allows delta time, right? Delta t is the deadline. So within the delta t, you have to do all this. So first you migrate these contest instances so that the incoming contest instance you can store here. Now, once you get this incoming contest instances, then you can start processing the request. So this is the entire network model of proposal work, right? If anyone has any questions, then I feel happy to discuss.
Sir, it's quite a complicated model. I don't expect questions. I'll brief them at the end. You please come to the solution and have the algorithm. Brief them, then give, so that we have some time for discussion.
Okay, sir. I understand the complexity of this model, right? Then the solutions, right? In our model, we focus to minimize the service delay of aforesaid network architecture without increasing the network and the fog node capabilities. The seamless integration of multiple vertical IoT applications, that is CVA. Now, previously, as Sir has explained this regarding this, what is this vertical IoT applications and what is cross-vertical IoT applications. Now, vertical IoT applications exist, but one vertical IoT application will not talk to other vertical application. But in case of the example that if smart healthcare is there and smart education is there, smart healthcare will not talk to smart educations. But nowadays, right, there are many scenarios are there where one vertical application need to other one to give a complete solution or complete service, right? For example, right, suddenly something, some accident happens in a road, right? Then you take the person in the ambulance and what you try to do, you are trying to reach a particular hospital which is close to the accident point, and the service is also available, right? So when it comes to services available, means whether a doctor is there, whether that type of facilities are there, whether the equipments are there or not, right? All this. So for that, right, what you need the information about the healthcare. Then nearby means which is very close to that, right? Even if it is close to that, then you need some information like traffic, right? What is the traffic? Sometimes, right, maybe the one hospital which is close to the accident point, but that traffic is too high in that place, right? So it will take a long time to reach there. In that case, it's better to choose one more, which is, even though there is traffic is not there, which nearby hospital, but the doctors or the facilities is not available. So, see, while taking a patient through ambulance, right, you don't have much time to do all this. You don't have much time to give the calls or search in the Google or different vertical applications and take a decisions, right? Is there any solution which automatically talks, right, between these applications and give a solution to you, right? It will show you that directly. It will show you that, yeah, this particular hospital has all facility, right, and availability of doctor, and this is the shortest route you can move, right? And for that, this vertical IoT application should talk to each other. So that you have given a solution, or that is cross vertical IoT applications, right? And the most problem with the cloud is the latency, right? And to handle the latency, you have introduced the fog nodes at the edge of the network. The next one is how to handle the massive data, right? You have not done anything in that. To handle the massive data, just you are pushing the data into the cloud, right? And unavailability of type of context, right? If, for example, just now I discussed the entire model, right? I need some information. My request is related to the smart healthcare, but in that fog node, the healthcare context information or context instances are not available. In that case, how to handle that particular? For that, you have proposed a smart context sharing algorithm, right? Critical IoT applications means once the service request comes to a node, it has to process immediately, right? Within minimum service delay. For that, right, you have used and you have proposed a algorithm that is delay tolerant load balancing algorithm, right? So it will check, right, how much delay it can tolerate. Based on that, it will perform a context migration or context sharing or service migrations, right? This is an example of enabling the context aware smart home, right? So I'm not discussing that one. Let me move to the algorithms. The first algorithm is, there are two algorithms are there. One is smart context sharing, SCS. Another one is load balancing, right? Now, so initially, right, I mean, all this algorithm 1 and algorithm 2, right, concurrently executing in each and every fog node, right? So that's why there are some taglines are there like at the rate sender's site, at the rate receiver site, like this way, right? I will explain that one. As I said, these two algorithms are concurrently executing, right? It's a parallel execution, concurrent execution of in each and every fog nodes. Now, and this you have written in for a particular time slot, right? Generate different context instances from the different services of every application at each fog node. I mean to say that the fog nodes, which is the fog nodes which are deployed in the environment, these fog nodes, right, after certain time period, just you have used a time period called as, I mean, what do you call as life cycle, right? Here means after few minutes, right, these fog nodes recollect the information from these deployed sensors, right? Not only sensors, from different points, different sources. And once they will get this information, they convert into the context, because the information can be stored in the short form so that you can process it easily, right? Precise form, that is not short, that is precise, right? They convert into the context form. Then prioritize the context instances as per the IoT application QoS requirement. Then you have to prioritize them, right? Then at the rate sender site means this particular section or this particular piece of code or this algorithm will execute at sender side. You will say, is there any specific node is a sender or receiver? No, it depends upon the timing, right? For example, once I receive a service request, right? Once I request a service request, then I need to serve that request. For that, right, whatever I required, right? For example, I require some information from other node. So I become the sender, then to whom I will send, that becomes the receiver. So that in that point of view, the code, I mean, algorithm is written. At sender side, each fog node do what? It will collect the neighbor list, right? Periodically, each and every fog node, it collects the neighbor list, collect all neighbor fog node information within the sensing range. Then repeat. This has to iterate. This is. Then at sender, each fog node, right, do what? Cmax equal to random. Now, see, this is what the practical scenario. But as you have implemented in the simulator, right? So how you have done that? So Cmax equal to random max 1 to max 2, right? You have given a range, right, to set the Cmax value of each and every fog node, right? While modeling this entire network, you have not put any static value here that this particular fog node has a Cmax of 20, that particular fog node has Cmax of 30. No. At every point of time, I mean, after every time period, right, you have given a, that is 3 minutes, 4 minutes you have given. After each 4 minutes, right, this entire process will repeat once again. So in that case, the fog node of A or fog node A Cmax value, this time maybe 20, next time maybe 30. So it's completely random, right? So here you are initializing the max Cmax value of each and every fog node. Next, if APP C total is less than APP C min, means application total contest instances is less than the required instance, is less than the application contest minimum. Then what I mean to say that, for example, there is a service request and the service request is related to healthcare. And to start that service request or to process that service request, I need minimum of 10 contest instances. But right now, the available contest instances of such type is less than the 10. Right? If it is more than 10, then I no need to do anything. Just I will start it, or I'll start executing that one. If it is less than 10, they have to do something. What I have to do, as I said, broadcast. Now broadcast, sender ID, message, request for required contest instances to all neighbor list. So I will send that. If anyone has having any smart healthcare informations, please share with me. Right. Then at receiver side means all the nearby fog nodes now becomes act as a receiver, right? Because the sender has sent the message, so whoever maybe it will receive that, they becomes the receiver, right? Check for the ability of requesting contest instances and send the number of contest instances of required type, right? So that is the n means number of contest instances of required type NC that send sender ID, then NC, the number of contest instances, and receiver ID. So it will send that. Now, before it send the actual contest instances, it will send the first number, right? I'm going to send the 5. Why this is required? Directly can send that one. You can put in a list and send it. The reason is, if I'll put all these contest instances and send it, then the sender node, which has broadcasted message, it may not accommodate all this, right? So that's why, first of all, they will send that how many contest instances they want to send. So the moment I will get it, that from A, I will get 3, from B, I will get 10, from D, I will get 7. Okay, 3, 10, 7, 20. So I'm going to get 20 contest instances. So let me create a space for the 20. That yeah. Now at sender side, now what you have discussed, that is receiver side. At sender side, now T equal to delay tolerant of an applications, right? As I said, I cannot wait for an indefinite time, right? I cannot wait for 20 minutes or 30 minutes or like that. Just there are some milliseconds are there. Within that milliseconds, whatever I will receive, I will take those contest instances to the account. So the sender will wait for that much of time. While T is less than, right, RES time, the response time plus communication time, right? Now, how I'm calculating here? Now, how much time required this receiver to respond it, and how much time required for the communication? Just that much time I will wait. Now here, the response time and communication time, it depends upon the distance from the fog nodes, right? The communication time is and the response time. Response time is taken from the previous log, right? How much response time? I mean, how a fog node, how much time a fog node takes to respond it? So that you are taking from a log, right? Then, if means after receiving that, if C total plus NA, right? NA means number of available, is greater than C max, right? Means whatever you have received and whatever you have previously, that becomes more than 10, right? In the example, we saw that, for example, I received 20 and previously I have a 17, so it's
Reddy
a
sir,
37.
time is running out, huh?
Yes, sir. Sir, so if I received 20, sir, can I go in abstract way or individual?
No, you just try to conclude. Just conclude this session. Now you can be brief so that we have some time for discussion.
Okay, sir. So once I'll get the number of contest instant which is more than the Cmax, then I will calculate the extra, right? Whatever the extra. Then if it is more than that, then what I'll do, I will means what the fog node will do, it will simply migrate those fog nodes, right? Simply migrate those contest instances to the nearby fog nodes, right? Now, then there is something called as delay tolerant load balancer. Now here in smart contest sharing algorithm, I call the delay tolerant load balancer, right? Now, what is the delay tolerant load balancer? That is there in the else part. Now, whatever the time I'm going to get, whatever the time I'm going to consume here or elapse here to, right, do all this processing, contest migration or contest sharing, is that the application is allow me to do that? If it will allow me to do all this gymnastic, right, contest migration or contest sharing, then I will proceed with that. Otherwise, what I will do, simply I will migrate migrate the service request to other fog nodes, right, where the contest instances as well as the computation is available, right? Yeah, this is what the second algorithm, the delay tolerant load balancer, right? Now here, I'm not going into details as this the lengthy one. Just overally, I will try to explain that one. Now, what is this delay load balancer is, right? Now it will calculate the minimum distance from the neighbors and the delay required for migration of contest instance or sharing of contest instances, right? So sometimes it required both, sometimes it required only one. So as per the situations, right? If it required only sharing, then it will consider the amount of time required or amount of delay required for the sharing. If it required the migration, then it's also add the migration time, right? Both will be calculated, and you will see that whether the app, the service, right? The service can, if the the incoming service request is a critical one, and if it can sustain that much of delay, then it will proceed with that. Otherwise, simply it will migrate to some other fog nodes. This is what the delay tolerance. Here, I'm not going for detail line by line, right? And this is what the outcome of the proposed work. The first one, what you are doing, the service delay over the percentage of incoming contest instances with low Cmax value, right? As I said, each and every parameters we have varied, changed the right during the simulation. Now here we are changing, and see in x-axis the maximum Cmax value you change, which we try to change from 8,000 to 500, right? By decreasing 500 in each case. Now that you can see in the service delay rate in milliseconds. So as you are decreasing the number of, the size of the Cmax, right? once you start decreasing the size of the CMAX, right? If the size of the CMAX is small, then obviously the number of migrations and number of contest sharing it will increase. If the contest sharing and the migration will increase, then definitely the service delay is increasing, right? In second case, the percentage of incoming contest instances with low CMAX value, right? Now here you have taken in the terms of percentage. So started with the 5%, 10% like this way, and you have taken up to 100%. In that case, the service delay rate is also increasing. When the incoming contest instances is very low, right? And here the size is CMAX value, right, is fixed. Then there will be, less delay in service, right? And as you increase the number of percentage, right, the service delay is increasing, right? This is same, but with medium CMAX value. Here the CMAX value, initially the CMAX value is low, right? You have taken the CMAX value low in the sense, here you can understand the high CMAX value is 8,000, low CMAX value is 5,000 you have taken, but you have kept in these cases 1,000, right? The low is 1,000 you have taken, and medium is you have taken as some 5,000, and the maximum you have high CMAX value you have taken as 8,000, right? In case of high CMAX value, you can see that you see the difference here. When the CMAX value is low, right?
Sorry to interrupt you are in flow. It's time you conclude with the results. I mean, don't go into the experimental setup because I would like to have a 5-minute discussion at least. Okay, we have only 10 minutes or so. Yeah.
So I will complete it in 2 minutes. The service delay over percentage of migrations. When number of migration increases, see the migration percentage 14, 19, 26. The moment you increase the number of migrations, definitely the service delay will also increase. Then, yeah. This proposed novel contest sharing scheme that in conjunction with the contest migration among fog nodes can reduce the service delay. Additional SCS scheme has been shown to outperform the greedy. Means you have compared our approach with the greedy because you didn't find any similar type of work to compare with us. So approximately that is 5 to 20%, right? Yeah, that's it, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. And I'm sorry that I couldn't introduce you because you joined in between. Dear participant, Dr. Hemant Reddy is from NIST Berhampur. He's presently working there as an associate professor in Department of Computer Science, and his area of interest is IoT. Thank you very much for your nice demonstration on the novel approach which you have mentioned in your paper, sir. Thank you. Participant, if you have a question, please go ahead. Okay, so I feel that nobody is raising hand because they have. Okay, so I have a question, Hemant Reddy, sir. Can I?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Sir, your implementation of this algorithm is a simulation based or a real time based?
Sir, simulation, completely simulation. This one. Sir, simulation, completely simulation.
Using which tool, sir?
Sir, it's a simulator.
Okay.
It's CloudSim.
CloudSim. Okay, that's CloudSim. Yeah. That's fine, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. Let us see if there are some other questions. There was a power cut. So if there are any audience.
Any other questions from the participant, please go ahead. All right. Otherwise, you can type or raise your hand if you hesitate.
So I will take this opportunity to thank Dr. Reddy. Thank you very much. Possible colleague in the department, computer science and technology. We had been colleagues there for a long time. So we worked there together. So today he helped me out due to my health issues. Probably on his day I'll return the favor.
Definitely, sir. Professor Lalit Sen, sir, the coordinator would like to say something. Sir, please go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. I would like to thank Dr. Deeptendu. It was, in fact, a nice lecture. And you please take care of health as well.
Beyond my control, but yeah, I have an appointment at 5:30.